fam, it's me Elle and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be super important for anyone who owns a bird, and I'm going to be talking about how to tell if your bird is sick and what to do if you think your bird might be sick. Don't mind the crazy flying budgies. So why exactly am I doing this video right now? That is because Bluebell is currently sick. As well as the fact that, of course, it's a very important topic, but I'm going to be using Bluebell as an example bird. So what is exactly going on with Bluebell right now? Bluebell has a bacterial infection in her crop. There is bacteria all around us and all around a bird's environment, but if a bird's immune system gets weakened in some way, like if they're under some stress, if they're molting, if there's a sudden change in environment, or anything else really that can just kind of throw them off, they can get sick. Most of the time, we don't really know what exactly causes a bird to become sick, but one of the most frequent causes of infection is when the bird poops in their food or water. So one of the biggest things you can do to prevent your bird from getting sick is to change their food and water every single day, and make sure your bird's food and water is out of the way where it could get pooped on. Like, don't keep your bird's food and water right underneath a perch. Another thing that could cause your bird to get sick is a drop in temperature or a draft, but in the case of Bluebell, I don't know what caused her crop infection. We just know it's there, and even healthy birds can at some point get sick and will need to get treated. And yes, even with good care, birds can get sick just like people can. I have had to deal with sick birds several times before. Now, before I get into the symptoms of sick birds, I need to give you guys a little PSA, and that is, I am not a vet. If you notice something off about your bird and you think they might be sick, don't use me as your main source of advice. Do your own research, and most importantly, go to an avian vet. Okay, another really important thing is if you notice your bird is showing any symptoms of being sick, they likely have already been sick for a while, because birds hide their illnesses extremely well. This is because in the wild, if a bird shows signs of being sick, they are an easy target for predators. A predator will visibly see that this bird is the weakest and go for them. Okay, so now going into the symptoms, I'm going to start off with what I noticed with Bluebell specifically. Okay, so the first thing I noticed was that Bluebell was yawning excessively. When birds yawn, they are often adjusting their crop, and yawning over and over again, like Bluebell did, is a sign of a crop infection. Another thing that I noticed Bluebell was doing was this kind of weird neck bobbing motion, not at all related to like the happy head bobbing that budgies do and that Bluebell does all the time. This one was something that she hasn't done before. As she was doing this neck bobbing motion, she also kind of looked like she was swallowing or gulping something. In general, if you notice your bird doing any kind of new strange behavior that they've never done before, they could be sick. Another thing that Bluebell was doing was definitely getting more tired. She was kind of closing her eyes more and just being more sleepy, as well as panting more after flying. But the thing is, she's still active. She's still flying around. She's still head bobbing and chirping and playing, but she just seems to be kind of more fatigued after doing these things. And that's an example of how birds hide their illnesses. Your bird still might be acting mostly normal and still playing, flying around, eating, chirping, but if you notice any kind of off behaviors, that's when they could be sick. I also noticed that Bluebell had a little bit of a tail bob, which is a sign that they could be breathing more heavily than normal. Now that is all the symptoms that Bluebell was showing, but Bluebell is just one bird and one case. There are so many different signs that a bird could be showing that can indicate that they're sick. And as well as a crop infection is just one illness a bird can get. Birds can get a bunch of different illnesses. Now I'm gonna go over some of the most urgent symptoms in birds. If your bird is doing any of these, they are in trouble and you need to get them to the vet as soon as possible. If your bird's feathers are consistently puffed up all the time. If your bird is sleeping all day or most of the day, or if their eyes are closing. If your bird is having trouble breathing, for example, open mouth breathing, visible straining, breathing with a clicking noise, or making wheezing sounds. If your bird's doing those things, they could have a respiratory infection. If your bird is not eating, that is a very urgent situation. Birds have a very fast metabolism and they need to keep eating. Birds can actually starve to death really quickly, and if your bird is not eating, it is a symptom of a serious illness. This does not count if you just got your bird and your bird is still just settling in. Birds sometimes don't eat for the first day when you get them, but if you notice that your bird actually stops eating, that is very serious. If your bird is not pooping, that is also a sign that they're not eating or that the food is not going through their digestive system. Losing balance on a perch or falling down. Shaking, twitching, or having seizures. If your bird has bad posture, like if they're slunching over in a horizontal position, that means they're very weak. And if you find your bird resting on the cage bottom when you know that they don't normally go there. So those are some of the most urgent symptoms. If you notice any of these things in your bird, you really need to get them to the vet immediately because they are very sick. And if your vet is closed, then try to find an emergency vet. I'm very lucky that I have both my regular vet, which is great, and an emergency vet near me. While you're waiting to take your bird to the vet, some things you can do are separate your bird from many other birds if you have them in the same cage. Keep your bird warm by putting a blanket over their cage or giving them a heating pad and giving them lots of their favorite food. So next I'm gonna go over some more common symptoms of a sick bird. This is by no means a complete list, but these are just some of the most common things that you wanna look out for. Changes in your bird's poop. This is often one of the earliest indicators that your bird is sick and will often come before any behavioral changes. You wanna familiarize yourself with what your bird's poop normally looks like so you can notice any changes. Bird poop has 3 parts to it: the solid darker part, the solid white part, and the liquid part. And if your bird's poop is missing one of those components, it's a sign that your bird could be sick. Or if you notice a sudden change in the color of your bird's poop or you see blood in your bird's poop. However, changes in your bird's poop can often be related to your bird's diet and doesn't always mean that they're sick. If your bird has been eating a lot of fruits, the poop will often take on the color of the fruit or take on the color of a colored pellet. If your bird has been eating a lot of raspberries, their poop might be stained red and it's probably not blood. But if you notice a sudden change in your bird's poop that's not related to diet, then that's a sign that your bird could be sick. Watery poops in birds can also be caused by your bird eating a lot of watery fruits and vegetables. A good way to tell if a change in poop is actually an indicator that your bird is sick, or if it's just their diet, is to stop feeding them fruits for a little bit and see if it changes back to normal or how it was before. And if the change in poop is consistent, then that's an indicator that your bird might be sick. However, you can never be too careful, so if you notice a change in your bird's poop and you're not really sure what it is, you can still contact your vet just in case. Also, if you've recently moved or there's a sudden change in your bird's environment, that stress can also cause a change in your bird's poop that's not related to sickness. The next symptom is vomiting. Pretty self-explanatory. If your bird is vomiting, then they might be sick. Vomiting in birds is not the same thing as regurgitating, which is a hormonal behavior that birds will do towards their mate. They might do it towards you or towards an object. That is not the same thing as vomiting. Regurgitating will often come with other hormonal behaviors like eye pinning or trying to mate, which is completely normal and not a symptom of a sickness. When a bird vomits, it'll often get all over their feathers or just stick everywhere. If your bird is sneezing a lot consistently and it's not just the occasional, they got a feather in their nose and they're trying to adjust it, that could be a symptom of a respiratory infection. As well as discharge around their nose, beak, or eyes. If your bird is sneezing out of sickness, they will often sneeze out discharge. If your bird is just sneezing normally, it'll often be dry. Lack of appetite. If you notice your bird is not as excited to eat, even if they are eating some, or eating less, or not eating their favorite food, that's a symptom. Droopy wings and tail, or tail bobbing like I said before. Weight loss is also another very early symptom that your bird could be sick, so it is a good idea to have a scale that you are able to weigh your bird with. Weighing your bird frequently can help you detect changes. Feather plucking. Birds can pluck for many different reasons, but it's often a symptom of some kind of underlying health issue. If you notice your bird is straining to poop, or if there's poop stuck on your bird's vent. Any kind of bleeding, very urgent, you want to take your bird to the vet immediately. If you notice any kind of swelling or unusual bumps on your bird. And lastly, any consistent change in behavior that makes your bird seem off. This could be a lack of energy, not wanting to play with toys, not flying, anything that just kind of is out of the ordinary for your bird. Again, you can never be too careful. If you notice some new behavior or a change in your bird's behavior, take them to the vet. There is nothing that can be lost. Of course, this does not apply if you've just got your bird and you've never had a bird before. All of your bird's behaviors are going to be new to you. But this is just another reason to spend a lot of time with your bird and learn bird's body language so you can notice any changes. You want to become really attentive to your bird because, again, birds hide their illnesses so well. So what should you do if you notice your bird has some symptom and you think they might be sick? Here's one thing not to do. Do not try to slide into my DMs. The sheer amount of DMs I've gotten where people's birds are sick and they want me to help them or to diagnose their bird. I am not a vet, and neither is any other pet influencer, YouTuber, whatever. Oh my god, Elle, my bird is sitting at the bottom of the cage fluffed up. What should I do? What should I do? What's wrong with my bird? I don't know. I'm not a vet. What am I supposed to tell you? So yeah, if your bird is sick, don't try to contact a bird YouTuber. Like, we don't know what's wrong with your bird. We just try to make videos to help people care for their birds. But we can't diagnose birds and we cannot treat birds. If you think your bird is sick or injured or has any other health problem, take your bird to an avian vet. That's why it's so important to have your avian vet even before you bring your bird home. You want to make sure that there's even an avian vet in your area. Dog and cat vets, they do not know how to treat birds. The avian vet that I use is Niles Animal Hospital and Bird Medical Center. I love them so much. Like, I trust them with my birds completely. So if you live in Illinois and you're near that area, then I really highly recommend them. It's also very important that once you do take your bird in, that you follow all of your vet's instructions on how to treat your bird. If they put your bird on medication, it's really important that you don't miss a dose. Which brings me to, I am going to be showing you guys now how to give your bird medication. Alright, so now I'm going to be showing you guys how to give your bird medication. Bluebell has 2 different medications for her infection. One of them is an anti-nausea medication. She takes this one before the antibiotic, so she doesn't throw it up. So what I'm going to do is catch her, give her the anti-nausea, and then put her in the travel cage because she has to wait 15 minutes before taking the antibiotic. Sometimes catching the bird can be the hardest part, and you want to make it really quick so they don't lose trust in you, but you got to do what you got to do. And I'm just gonna have to reach in and grab her. There's Bluebell. When you restrain a bird for medication purposes, you wanna make sure that you're not pressing down on their chest so they can still breathe, and you wanna hold both sides of their head kind of right underneath their beak so they can't turn around and bite you as you're trying to give them their medication. And then you've just gotta squirt it right into their beak. Make sure they get the whole dose. And Bluebell is waiting in her travel carrier for her next medication, which is the antibiotic. Yes, I know you're trying to get out, Bluebell, but you can't. You have to wait 15 minutes. And the reason she's in the travel cage is obviously so she doesn't go flying around and I have to catch her again, so it's just a lot less stressful this way. And when she's in her travel carrier, it's like the only time Bluebell will let me scritch her. I know you want to get out of the carrier, but you still got to be in the carrier. And she's trying to bite her way out. Are you trying to bite your way out of the carrier? It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Why are you screaming so much? So it's time for the antibiotic. I'm gonna go ahead and catch Bluebell again and then hopefully show you a little bit better and more close up how I administer the medication. Okay, so again, I'm restraining her the same way. I'm actually not putting any pressure on her chest. I am holding her by the sides of her beak so she doesn't move around and bite me. And I like to hold her in my left hand and then give her the medication with my right. The reason you don't want to put pressure on their chest is because that is how they breathe. They need to expand and contract in order to get the oxygen they need. Got it all in. And I released her. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Elle and the Birds, and check out my website, elleandthebirds.com, where you can find my Elle's Avian Essentials kits. And I will see you guys in my next video.